just doing much. So if you guys go to if you got your participant guide, this is in page 4. And it's really asking us here, like, what's your number one job as a real estate agent? Who can answer that for me?
Get appointments.
Getting appointments is definitely one of our jobs, but what's our number one job? Lead generation, correct. Right. And where can you find seller leads? Who can answer that for me?
Your database, your sphere of influence.
Your database, sphere of influence. Where else?
Farm.
Where else?
Social media.
Social media is actually, yes, definitely these days. Social media, you can definitely get some seller listings from that, right? Using your database for sure. Your daily 10-4, right? If you guys aren't doing those, check that out. If you're not familiar with that, I'll show you at the end of this. To find
Expired on MLS.
Expireds, absolutely. Open houses are probably a great opportunity right now, right? They're kind of back, right? Inventory is low. Bunch of people looking to buy houses. So I've been in markets where like I'd go sit in an open house and like, I don't know, I'll probably get 2 people out of sitting there for 4 to 5 hours. But I can't imagine having a listing today and at least not going for it. The inventory is so low. That's just like business waiting to happen. Anybody here has been doing open houses? What kind of response have you been getting from open houses?
So Eddie, I did a few for our listing in Anaheim Hills, the condo, and we had traffic even on Memorial Day when we did it.
That's awesome. Do you know like roughly how many people maybe came in?
I believe like 10 groups.
Okay, that's awesome. It's
And
so
doing some this weekend too.
that's great. So what's cool about open houses is one, I mean, you are going to get people that will come in from time to time to just want to look. But at the end of the day, like people are walking to open house and they're showing interest, and that's all they need, right? They're not going to know the answers. They're not going to know that you have a path to actually help them. As a matter of fact, most buyers in open houses don't know that they qualify to buy, right? That's usually even with appointments. When you get buyer appointments that come in, people are coming to consult with you because they don't know if they can buy or not. And it's our job to show them a pathway, right? So when you're doing an open house, essentially it's a form of prospecting. You're sitting in there and it's a great way and it's a very cost-effective way to generate leads, right? And to generate business without you necessarily having to put up money, right? Just a little bit of time and effort. So consider that a very, very viable option right now to take advantage of open houses if you can get them. And if somebody on your team or in your office has listings and they're receptive to open houses but aren't holding them that weekend, see if you can borrow the open house, right? See if you could take that on for that week. It'll go a long way for you. I think it's huge. And you guys have a open house job aid in your Ignite toolkit that shows you some things in there that you can do with your open house. Leveraging your SOI is another great way to build your referral business to find potential seller leads, right? So you already got people, your SOI, that know you and they'll do business with you. But how about reaching out to people that they know to help you build your database, right? To help you, build your listing leads and build your database by adding their friends in your contact list there. So your database is huge. Doing your daily 410, also huge. Talked about open houses or your 10-4, and then referrals. Referrals are by far your best ROI. If you do a rock star job on closing a deal and you got a raving fan, those are the ones you want to ask. Hey, do you know 2 to 3 people who are thinking about buying or selling? And let them give you some numbers. Actually, when I first got into business, I was trained at the end of a buyer consultation even. Hey, who are 3 people do you know that are looking to buy or sell a home, right? and we would just sit quietly and wait. People would actually pull out their phones or, you know, pull out, you know, like whatever they had and like start giving some names and numbers. They just felt like they had to, right? So it's fun. It's funny how that works, that when you ask, you'll be surprised on what you do receive. So consider that, especially with somebody that you just helped make the biggest financial decision of their life, right? If you got a family to a home, that's one of the happiest moments that they'll always remember, right? And you're right there with them. So you know, those are the opportunities at the end of a transaction to say, hey, who do you know, right? So referrals, huge, guys. Always ask, who do they know? So let's see here, we went over that. So now we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, qualifying and converting the seller leads, right? We're going to switch gears here, and we're going to learn about what comes after, you know, generating leads, which is connecting, pre-qualifying, and converting the seller leads into listing appointments, right? This is what we want to get purposeful in. And that one of your leads, that if one of your leads tell you that they are interested in selling a home, what do, right? We got to make sure that we got that next step down. So that's what we're covering. And what we first need to do is to connect with them so that you'll be their real estate agent of choice, right? So it's all about the human aspect, guys. A lot of times I know that we're going through these trainings and there's these parts and these systems and these, you know, this process that we go through to train you, but it really comes down to like, what's your unique value? Who are you? And how are you connecting with people, right? Always keep that in the forefront and be intentional in how you make people feel, because half the time, if not more than half the time, it's not what you're saying to people, but it's what's the intention behind of how you make them feel that has them connecting with you and wanting to do business with you, right? But if you're not connecting with them because you're kind of worried about all this minutia, I know it's important to know and get trained in these, you know, in this process. But if you're focused on the process and not on the client, guess what? They're not going to make that connection with you. And then the process becomes irrelevant, right? So why do we need to know these processes or know our scripts and know these different things? Because that's how we get to grow ourselves, but it also allows us to make that second nature to us. So we could be, you know, top of mind and clear and connected with the clients on the other end and hear what they're actually saying and telling us. So important, because I know a lot of people that are so focused on the questions and the different things, but they're not really focused on being there with the client. Okay. And then we got to understand how ready they are so that you can categorize them to see how soon they're thinking of selling, right? Once you think someone is willing to sell, then you need to pre-qualify them, right? To see if they are able and ready to do business. Finally, if they're ready and able, you'll do a listing presentation and secure that listing. Now, each step is important so that you follow up with the leads that aren't yet able, ready, and willing. Then you could put majority of your time and effort winning the listings with those who can do business. So it's super important. Why we follow up with everybody, right, is because we got to start categorizing them. If they're ready, great. That's where we're going to focus our time and energy. But what if you're just, you know, focusing on this time and energy and people that aren't ready, right? And you naturally are going to operate a little differently, knowing someone's ready to do business today versus someone who's going to be ready in 6 months, right? So that naturally starts to kick in a little bit. So you want to start, you know, focusing on that and like being purposeful about it. Now, I know some of you guys remember the who, what, where, why, when, and how. They've probably been teaching us this stuff since grade school, and they have for a reason, right? This is a system. And, you know, I'm going to go ahead and ask some people to participate here. And, you know, let me have one person read who and what, another person read where, why, and then somebody else read when and how. Who would like to go?
I'll go
So-
first.
Go ahead.
So for who, get details to add your database. If you would, please tell me a little bit about your family, job, life, etc. That's for who. Assesses their wants, needs, and plans. What are you looking for? What do you want to do? It's their what.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, who's next?
Where is the next one?
Yep.
Pinpoint their location. Where would you like to buy? Where's your home located?
And then why? You do why?
Determine their motivation. Why are you moving?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I like why, knowing their why is so huge, right? And determining their motivation. When I get to that point, for me, it's really where I do the most digging. So I follow up, the why questions with like, tell me more about that. What else? And typically, if anybody gives you some logical answer when it comes to money, and I'm not saying that a lot of times it isn't for the money, but there's really a big why they need that money. And I really want to know, what's behind that, right? But once you get 2-3 levels deep behind someone's why and motivation is where you really start to get the proper answers. And those are the real answers that you use to remind them why they're in the process when they get shaky about specific things or certain decisions, right? So using things like, tell me more, what else? And then when you get to the emotional stuff where I need to be closer to my parents, right? Or my kids live down in that area. Now that I'm retired, I want to, be closer to them, right? Or I have grandkids now and my commute's too far, right? Those are the things that those emotional things are the things that really move people. And when your answers start to reflect that kind of thing, that's when you're getting to that real why and their motivation. And that's when you remind them when things get shaky, hey, we talked about this, and I'm here to make sure that you're getting taken care of, and we're going to get you closer to your grandkids, or we're going to get you closer to your kids, or whatever that why was, right? That's essentially the goal behind why they're doing everything. And you want to sometimes you got to remind them of that, especially when they get caught up in the logistics of certain things or the monetary aspect of things in a transaction, right? Because it's bigger than that usually. All right, so connecting is an important part of prospecting, which we covered in the lead gen module of this course. And people want to do business with people that they see motivated, capable, and likable. So focusing on connecting with the seller so that you can, so you can gain and build rapport, and also find out, how willing and ready the seller is, right? What are the life events motivating them to think about motivation, right? Motivating them to think about motivation is, I don't know why it's spelled like, I'm sorry. So it helps you, right, move towards the ultimate goal of the transaction. So here it's telling us, again, you just want to get to motivation. You want to see where they're at. The more you go through this process, the more you're pre-qualifying sellers, the more you're going to read between the lines of somebody who's really willing to do business and who's very motivated versus somebody who's not. And it's when you get to that point that you're going to be able to start positioning yourself to win. In the beginning, you're probably still trying to figure things out. So, you're probably not identifying certain nuances, but you'll get better as you go into the business through enough experience. So how do you guys think these questions help you build rapport and trust with the lead? How do these questions help you guys?
If we ask open-ended questions, the customer is going to have to talk to you about it instead of just answering yes or no.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. Open-ended questions gives them to talk. And you know what I found out, guys? People love to talk about themselves. So ask open-ended questions. But if you're asking closed questions, then you can consider those things getting real short. Closed is great, but it's usually best when you're ready to close. But when you're trying to seek motivation and gain information, you want to be purposeful with, am I asking open-ended questions? That's great. Thanks for bringing that up. Who else? What other, how else do you guys think these questions help build rapport and trust with the lead?
This will allow to get to know the person.
You get to know them, right? Hey, I don't know you, but I'm going to sell you a house, or I'm going to sell your home, you know, right? So you want to know them. Think about it. Who are you guys usually doing business with when you're looking to go do business?
People we know.
People you know, or at least you're going to find somebody through somebody else that you know and trust, right? So keep that in mind. All right, cool. Let's go on to this next slide. So seller lead and categories. This is super cool, guys. There's all kinds of ways we categorize our clients. And then this is like a little A, B, and C system. It's important to know, it's important for you to know how ready your potential seller is, right? You'll follow up differently, again, as I said earlier, with a seller that you know is ready now versus one, you know, a seller who's ready in 6 months. The differences between A, B, and C leads on the list or on the slide here are a great way to distinguish, you know, the level of communication that you also have. Categorizing your leads helps you know how often to follow up with the lead and how close you are to getting a listing or the listing, right? Sellers that are currently ready should and will take more of your time and effort, but it's important to follow up appropriately with your B's and C's, as well as establish your pipeline, right? So, you know, here it's showing us able, ready, and willing to do business in 0 to 14 days, right? At that point, you got a daily follow-up to secure the appointment, right? You got to make sure that you're getting in that appointment, you're getting in front of that person. B, able, ready, and willing to do business in 15 to 60 days. Put them on your database or in your database and call them every 2 to 3 days, or at least once a week. And then you got your C's, ready, willing, and able to do business 61 days or more. Put them into your database and call them monthly. So the idea here is you want to, you know, you want to establish a system where nobody's slipping through the cracks. That's where you become efficient in this business, right? How are you, again, winning the mind share, right? So yes, your A's, you're probably going after them, but that doesn't mean your B's and C's should be people you neglect. That's your business 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 8 months from now, a year from now. If you're so purposeful and you're starting to build your pipeline, just think about it that month over month, you're growing. Month over month, you go from 4 appointments to 8 appointments to 16 appointments to 32 appointments to 100 appointments. Why is that not possible? Right? It is. It's just in our minds, we'll put limiting beliefs and say, you know what, I can't think that far ahead. But really, if you're systematic and doing your activities and you chunk them down to small pieces every single day, it does accumulate. A pipeline is built up with time over task. So if you're doing this long enough, there should be no reason why you're not growing month over month through just consistent effort, right? I think that this is huge because all the top teams and those that are, you know, doing 1,000+ transactions have mastered this. They know that they're filing people 12 months out, 8 months out, right? They're stacking those. So, and they're constantly following up. And then if you get the compounding effort of 2 or 3 people, for those of you on a team that are doing that and they're stacking, you know, month 4, month 5, month 6, just think about how much action there is in those months after you start building it. Now, the difficult part is starting your pipeline because you need to get the ball turning and it turns slow. But as you get moving, it's faster and faster. And if you have a great, you know, lead follow-up system, let's say Smart Plans and Command or neighborhood landing pages for your leads, guess what? That's also doing the work for you. Why are we doing 33 touch campaigns, 54 touch campaigns, 100 touch campaigns? We're doing these things because that's how we do a cast all net that actually puts everybody in this thing where we know we're systematically communicating with them through automation. while we get to sit there, and communicate with them via phone or in person, as best as we can, you know, when their system prompts us to do it, because part of those campaigns prompt the job of the campaign is to also prompt us when we have to make those calls, right? So when you set those up and you're maintaining a proper database, you get the benefits of just utilizing your system and making the calls and plugging them in. So this is huge because you get to build a predictable business. How many of us heard that, real estate is very up and down, right? The only reason why it's up and down is because your activities are up and down, or your systems are non-existent. But if you actually have a system and again, you have your automation, it changes the game because you're winning that mind share. So I wish you guys were in front of me and I had a whiteboard. I don't want to pull out of the screen, but if you look at, for instance, if you took a side profile of one of those, roller coasters where you got the peaks and valleys, and the peaks being where somebody just transacted a real estate transaction, the valley being, somebody who's, at that point, like not ready to do anything, but they're ready to start climbing the peak, right? They're all at different places. So the least motivated place someone who transacted in real estate is going to be is right after they transacted, right? Like that next day, right? But you got to think they're on their way down, but eventually they're going to be on their way up. So what do you have in place where you're communicating with leads that are up top that are ready to do business, and how are you communicating with those that are at the bottom of those valleys that are not ready, but eventually will get to that peak again, right? So with that visual, hopefully you guys are picturing it, you could see where automation drips on them along the entire way, along the entire path, so that you are in communication with them, and it even solidifies it even more when you pick up the phone or make those appointments, just meet with them for a coffee, right? Or whatever it is that you do to make sure that you're getting the personal touch out. It could be a handwritten note, right? So this is huge, because I don't want you guys investing 5 years into this business, skipping out on this piece of it, right? And not realizing that you're just repeating the first year over and over again versus growing year over year over the next 5 years. And this is how you do it. This is how you build a big business. All right. Now, so over here it says we're going to do some real play, categorize your seller leads, right? Qualifying us so with this process here, I don't know if you guys have your participant guides with you or not. If not, I'm going to go ahead and share right now some of the stuff that we have here. But before we do that, how many of us are in here? Let me see if I can put us in breakout rooms. Hold on. You know what? There isn't that many of us. Let's just kind of stick together here on this. And we can make it work. I don't mind the breakout rooms, but sometimes, I don't know what goes on in there, and then I don't want to, lose out on our time here. So, so with that said, what do you guys feel that with what I just said, like before we go into this exercise, I want to ask you guys a question, because this is really important. Out of everything I just said in terms about your A, B, and C, categorizing, building up your pipeline, what are you guys getting out of that?
My biggest takeaway was the peaks and valleys, and how it's not like a peaks and valleys, it's just an activities correlation. And you do see it all the time of, like, an agent just getting really busy, so their lead gen isn't what it was, 6 months or 3 months prior to that. And then that's going to reflect in a couple months later.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's so key. What else?
If you have a plan in place, things are not gonna fall off. like you'll be able to pick it up and continue doing it.
Systems are incredibly important.
Hands down, and maintaining it, right? Because that's the other problem there too. It's not a problem, but the other situation people fall short is because they're not actively communicating with their database. They're not communicating enough with the clients in there. So how do you know where people are? But if you're systematic about doing it and you got a pulse on everybody that's in there, then guess what? You're going to squeeze out a lot more lemonade out of those lemons, right? So think about that. All right. So here it's asking us to role play, right? This is role play with a partner in ABC in terms of readiness to sell their home. Remind participants to use a sample connecting questions in page 5 of your participant guide. So do you guys got your participant guides with you? If not, let me go ahead and pull one up here. And then we'll just do it together. Get you guys page 5. All right. So let me move this over here. Do you guys see the PDF in front of us? Is it still sharing or no?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So it says connect with seller leads, right? The first thing we need to do with our seller leads is to connect with them. The question below represents connecting questions you can use to get a full story on a lead, right? The questions will help you dig deeper for more information to convert and ultimately close your lead. All right, so let's have two brave people come up and role play here. One can be, the agent calling, the other one can be the lead, and somebody can, ask these questions here little by little and just start a conversation and, see how it goes. Who's willing to jump in and do that?
Let's run it.
I can do it.
All right, awesome, Karina. So do you want to be the agent or the seller? Since you chose, since you jumped in, what do you choose? Seller? Oh, AJ, you're in too?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
Go for it. You pick.
I'll be the customer.
All right, AJ, you be the agent.
Cool.
Cool.
Ring.
Hello.
Hey there, Karina. This is AJ with Keller Williams La Mirada. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for asking. I'm calling just just some of the sellers in your neighborhood just to ask if you had ever considered selling, or maybe one of your neighbors considered selling.
I'll be open to the idea.
Okay, got it. Well, sorry, I don't know how I'm supposed to get into this part. This target.
Just let it flow.
Okay.
Whatever you feel comfortable.
Cool.
Just consider. Sorry, we're taking a break from the role play real quick. Just be purposeful a little bit with the who, what, where, why, when, and how aspect of it.
Okay.
Right now, they're just a lead. You don't first time you meet, right? So yeah. Okay.
Okay. Okay, something you're considering. That's great to hear. There's a lot of families out there that are trying to get into homes. I'd like to learn a little bit about you though first. What do you do for a living?
I work for a bank.
Okay, nice. How long have you actually worked there for?
17 years.
Wow, very cool. Is sorry.
It's all good. It's easy when you're like the spectator, but when you're in the seat, especially in front of others, it gets a little like that. But I can already tell you do this all the time. Yeah, go ahead.
Great. So 17 years, that's awesome. Sounds like you have a lot, you could probably give me a lot of financial advice, which I think I need. You mentioned, like we talked earlier about you wanting to sell in the future, or thinking about it, sorry. What's important about that? What are you looking to gain from selling?
I wanted to be close to my daughters.
Okay, nice. And what city are your daughters in currently?
They are in Santa Barbara.
Got it. All righty. So you'd like to head out to Santa Barbara and be closer with the daughters. They have grandkids or you have kids as well? Or is that another reason why you're trying to be a little closer to them too?
No, they don't have kids yet, but I'm thinking, one day they will have kids.
Right. Yeah, no, understood. And definitely want to be closer. Driving from LA to Santa Barbara for those, for those appointments and stuff would be a little hectic. What kind of timeline did you have said, were you thinking about? Was it something you were hoping to do this year or maybe next year?
Well, I see that the houses right now are going for a lot more than what they're worth based on what I hear.
Mhm.
So I would say the sooner the better. My only concern is would I be able to find something over there?
Right. No, understood. Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. Would your goal be to sell and purchase something out there, or did you want to sell and rent out there, or maybe move in with one of your daughters? I was kind of curious how you planned on going about it.
No, I don't want to move in with them. I just want to be close to them.
Okay, got it. So would that be, you wanting to purchase another property out in Santa Barbara or rent? What were you looking to do?
I would prefer to buy.
Okay, no, understood. Well, it sounds like the goal is really to get closer to the daughters in Santa Barbara and to purchase, not to just rent. So, really the first step would be, finding out, what your home is valued at in today's market. I was gonna go into like my own script from there, but like, what do we do?
So at that point, ask for the appointment.
Okay. Great. So, it sounds, it sounds like we need to get started on this much sooner. Like you mentioned with, housing prices going up. When would be a good time to meet? Is later today available to you or tomorrow would be best?
No, actually today it's not a good day, but usually I'm open on weekends.
Perfect. Well, I'll make my my weekends open just for you. What's your availability like Saturday? Are you more of a mornings, afternoons?
I think mornings will work, like between 11 and 12.
Great. So we'll set this up for 11 a.m. Saturday morning. And I'll come by and, like I said, we'll really get started on this process. Let you know what your options are as we start to explore that new home in Santa Barbara, so you can just be closer to the family.
That sounds good. I'll see you then.
Awesome, guys. Good stuff. So you see when we had some little breaks, and obviously we're in an Ignite setting on Zoom and whatever else, but when you guys get flowing in the conversation, it just starts to flow, right? It just felt more natural, and you did a good job, AJ, with just kind of picking up whenever I said all right, go ahead and ask for the appointment or this. So you got those pieces. So couple things that I would do in this case. You both did a great job. I would isolate any kind of objections or concerns, right? Is there anything else, you know what I mean, other than that, right? Is there a reason why, right? Or I know you mentioned home prices, so you know what, that's going to be one of the first things we talk about when we meet. So you want to assume the close in situations like that, and I think that helps. But other than that, you guys did great. And just kind of flowing in the conversation. And really, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? At the end of the day, we're all human. We're all going to be our authentic selves. and the conversations happen the way they happen. And sometimes as agents, we also have to mirror and match and see what's happening on the other side of the conversation, right? If you're someone who's usually a fast talker and you got somebody on the other and a lead on the other end who's slow, guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose them, right? You got to kind of like gain where they're at, then you can future pace the conversation after you kind of match where they're at. So I used to practice a lot with those nuances. If somebody like gave me a hard or sharp hello, I would respond the same way, right? Like that's how I would get my conversation going. If I needed to bring the energy because they answer with energy, then that's what I do. If they're a little bit more relaxed, then I would slow it down a bit, right? So those are little nuances that really get you a little extra time on the phone, right? Because let's face it, on the phone, maybe you got 5 seconds to make your impression. If not, they're hanging up. So those are like little key things that you guys can take away from that. Good job on doing your who, what, where, why, and when and how. I thought that was good. You went through that process. And then another part about it that you could also do to convert is you can also ask for referrals. Like, hey, I had a pleasure speaking with you today. I know, we'll be meeting soon to discuss more of your options, or tomorrow is at this, do you know anybody else that might be thinking about buying or selling? So there's opportunities to do that as well. And, you can, let them know that you're also going to be sending them, hey, in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and send you some information. Would that be okay? Right. And when you say that, what you're really asking is, hey, I'm going to put you on a drip campaign and start sending you text messages and emails, which after a phone call like that, it is customary, and it is a great practice to go send a text, or an email or whatever it is that you choose to do, just, thanking them for the call and whatever else, and confirming the appointment in that communication, and, adding that extra touch. Okay. Good stuff. Let's see here. Let me go back. All right. Ask for the referral, ask them to reciprocate. All right, let's see what this says here. It says finding your leads motivation is the first step, which we discussed, in turning a warm lead into a closed client. When you are completing your daily lead generation activities, your goal is to convert those leads to appointments. Okay, so want to be purposeful with the appointments. You might get an appointment from a person you called, but if not, you might get a referral from someone who's thinking about buying or selling. So remember that. Creating a reciprocal relationship is also how you turn the lead into a contact, someone that gives you permission to follow up. That's why when we get that permission, like I'll be sending you a few things or sending you some information in the meantime until we meet tomorrow. Would that be okay? Great. That's when you get them in your database, put them on those 14 touch campaigns to solidify the relationship, or an 8x8, and then you can move them into a 33. For a seller lead, that means asking how you can connect with them or meet with them. For a referral, this means asking how they can connect you with people they know. So again, you get them in, but you also want to see who do they know. When you've determined the seller or the seller's referral is motivated, willing to sell, ask for the appointment, okay, using 2 steps. Okay, when you want to ask for the business, when will you be ready to sell? And then 2, you want to ask for the appointment. Will tomorrow at 3 or Friday at 1 work best for you to discuss selling your home? Okay, those are things that are super important. Now, it says here, what other questions can you think of? Fit your who, what, where, when, why line in your question in your page 7 of your participant guide. So you guys, if you're not following your participant guide, it has a lot of things where you could take notes, but keep your thoughts organized. I'm not sure if you have them or not, but it's a great place to, like, as we're having these discussions, note these key things in those sections, so you don't have to, like, so it's not one big blur at the end. So between page 5 and page 7, take that, run with it, take the information we put, make sure you fill those in. There's a couple questions in there I'll leave it up to you to fill out at your own time, okay? Now we're gonna go into pre-qualifying the sellers. So, you know, now that we've covered how you'll find and convert our seller leads, let's move on to how to pre-qualify them. That once you know a seller is willing to sell, so let's say you're calling a bunch of leads, expired, FSBO, whatever, you got to know about them, you set the appointment, and that appointment's a couple days out, and they agree to meet with you. You now need to pre-qualify them before you even go and do that appointment. So I know teams that will not go on listing presentations if they're not pre-qualified over the phone. Sometimes pre-qualifying over the phone does not mean that you as the agent who's meeting with them is actually doing the pre-qualifying questionnaire, right? So AJ shows Team Remo here. So maybe Remo on the other end is going to call that seller and pre-qualify for AJ and say, hey, hey, this is Remo, part of the Remo team. I know you're meeting with AJ, and we're getting ready to come meet with you tomorrow. And I just had a few questions that I'd like to bring up and talk to you about, just to make sure that we have all your questions and everything that you need answered for you. And then they would, then you would like initiate a questionnaire. Now you all have a pre-qualifying questionnaire in your Ignite toolkit. Again, if you don't have that up or you didn't download the zip file for your toolkit, I have that here. I will pull that up for you guys to see. A couple key bullet points before we go into that though. Pre-qualifying sellers does have some key points. Understand the seller's motivation, right? So again, we want to remind them or get back to motivation. Position yourself as an expert, super key. Obviously, by doing that, you could win the listing, and winning the listing is what we're here to do. So keep that in mind, because you might be competing against others, and allow you to. It also allows you to price the home to sell for the most amount of money in the shortest time frame, and properly set seller expectations, allowing you to create a great customer experience. So again, these are opportunities to get more out of the seller before you meet with them, so that you kind of get the insight. So when you are meeting with them, you already have the questions, you have the expectations answered, you have all that stuff kind of already put in place, along with the information that they don't have, right? The proprietary information that you're bringing in as a professional expert in your field, coming into that appointment. So when you put those two things together, you already have a roadmap on how to connect the dots and get them where they want to go, right? So to make the best use of your time, you must be willing to pre-qualify the seller rather than expect each seller lead will become an appointment, right? Because that's not the case. So these are the benefits here to pre-qualifying. And again, you can get this from your Ignite toolkit. So let's go ahead and go through that questionnaire. It says here, let me see, there's a couple little things here it wants me to tell you. We will practice using the pre-listing questionnaire. The questionnaire will help you determine how quickly you may be able to get into business with a lead. You'll notice that the questionnaire uses many who, what, where, whens, and why questions to facilitate the process. So let me just go ahead and show you guys the questionnaire here. All right, so this is your pre-listing questionnaire. Up top, obviously showing the seller's name, email, right, street address, home, phone, appointment date, time, location, mobile number. So this is cool because how many of us are writing leads on just regular notepads and end up getting lost, or on a post-it somewhere and it just hangs up or ends up in a pile, right? Like, you can actually put leads in these things, right, with the intention that you're going to actually ask these questions. So going into this, it says here, do you have 5 minutes I can ask you some very important questions before I come over to meet you, right? And those questions would be, how did you hear about us, right? Let's just say somebody's calling on your behalf, and where are you moving, what's motivating you to move there. I know this all sounds very redundant, but at the same time, what we're getting to here on the other side, it's not received that way because they just had a casual conversation that you extracted information typically, right? And when you do that, they're kind of just giving you information. They're not understanding that you're already pulling the stuff out. But to just get clear, you could reiterate some notes if you take good notes from that initial call and just re-sparking these questions, or that person who's calling them, if it's not you, can go ahead and ask them again and just like get a little deeper in each part of the process. Now, as we go in through this here, it says, if we sell your home in the next 30 days, will that pose a problem for you? If yes, what would that problem be? So now we're getting to some other questions. What would happen if your home did not sell? How much do you want to list your home for? Key question right there. Everybody has an idea. Everybody's on Zillow. Everybody's on Redfin. They think they know that their home is like, $1 million when it's really at 7, right? There's that world that exists. Is that safe to say? And there's certain things that they don't understand, and everybody, are going to be biased, right? Their home in their mind is the best home on the block. So they're always going to have that, have their own preconceived notion of what their home is worth and what they want to sell for. So knowing that number is important for you. How much do you want to list your home for? We said that. Okay. How much, what? I don't know what it looks like, typo. How much do you owe on the property? I'll be sending you a packet of information, right? Will you take a few minutes to review before we meet? You have a home seller's guide, you could send them in that case. It's always nice to drop something off nice with like I don't know, some people do plans and they have a seller packet and they have their questionnaires and whatever else in there and just basic marketing strategies that they use. And, it's just like one extra touch before they actually meet with the client. So we'll get into that right now too. Will all the decisions be there, makers be there when we meet? This is so key, right? Like the last thing you want to do is go into a listing appointment in a husband and wife situation and one of them is missing. It's just pointless, like ends up being an issue. And then just so you know, our meeting will be taking about 45 minutes to an hour. Is that okay? I look forward to meeting with you on so-and-so date at so-and-so time. So this is a questionnaire you guys all have. And this questionnaire here really ends up helping you lock down those listings. So let's roll it back a little bit. You have a lead, you communicate with them, you build some rapport, they are okay with you reciprocating have a reciprocating relationship. So now they become a contact. There's two-way communication, right? You set the appointment. After you set the appointment, you would probably send in a text and email, if not both, right? Just confirming and thanking them and appreciating the call. And then once you do that a day before, right, you can send them a pre-listing package, which would be, a home buyer's guide, which we all have with Keller Williams, maybe with a little plant if you want, not necessary, right? But, I'm just giving you guys some ideas. Some people do that with maybe a little bit about what you do in marketing, a little bit about your team, a little bit about yourself, testimonials, whatever you choose to put in that packet. And then you're going to call or have somebody on your team call because they'll be open to saying things to that person versus you knowing that you're going to be the person to meet with them. So you have them do this pre-qualifying listing piece here. And when they do that, now you extract that information with what you already know. And then you're already going to be able to start identifying, where they are, let's say with what they want to list. Why do they want to list their home at, 800,000? Right? You start learning these things and you start to position yourself to win in that conversation when you do meet with them, based on the comps and condition, right? This is where we're at, this is where do you think your home is at next to these other properties, so and so, and you go from there. So now you got the insight on what you can expect going into that, and you can have the answers before you walk in. So then now you're walking in, you're equipped with all the information you need, you do your presentation and you knock it out the park and you get that listing. So we did a couple things there. You made your initial contact, you made another contact texting, that's 2. You made another one emailing, that's 3. You sent the pre-listing package, that's 4. You did the pre-qualifying questionnaire, that's 5, right? And then you maybe you send something else, you know, the day before, a video text. Hey, I'm super excited meeting with you tomorrow. Looking forward to it. I hope you received the package we sent you, and I'll see you tomorrow at 5. Great. So guess what? You got like 5 or 6 touches there. So guess what happens when you have that many touches before you actually sit and meet with them? Who wants to answer that question for me? What are we doing when we're doing all that?
Building a relationship.
You're building a relationship. Do you think other agents are taking that much, taking time to do those things?
No.
Most likely not. But not only are you building a relationship, they're getting comfortable with communicating with you. They're getting comfortable with knowing who you are. They're more relaxed knowing that this is coming up, that when they actually meet with you face to face, that, you know, they feel like they already know you, that they appreciate you, that they see that you're going above and beyond. And those are things. Texts can be canned, your emails can be canned, your pre-listing package, all these things can be preset. It's just a matter of updating the name and numbers, right? Doesn't have to be extra work. It could also be a smart plan in your command, where if you know you're gonna have the appointment, you launch that smart plan and it starts sending emails and texts with the adjustments that you make if you want. So it doesn't have to be much of an extra effort, but those extra touches does help you solidify that listing, right? Super key. And then if they have, and then the good thing about that is after, you know, when you do send them a pre-listing package and it has all that stuff, you know, hey, I just calling to see if you received the package and if there's any questions that you had from that. And guess what else that does? When you drop something off, and it could be after you set the appointment, right? It doesn't have to be a day before. It could be a couple, 3 days before, right? What that does is it sits on their desk or on their kitchen table or wherever it sits. And every time they look at it, they're remembering you. You're coming to top of mind again. All these little things will psychologically put you in a position with that lead and that client to win. And when you go in that listing, it's game over, right? Pretty much get it. All right, guys, let's see here. We're almost done. I'll leave it to you guys to pre-qualify the sellers. So if you can find somebody in your market center or somebody to take the seller questionnaire, just go ahead and role play that. Right? You guys are in the business to go get listings. Role play this. Key questions. And then the listing presentation. Okay, let's go ahead and open that up here. Just move this in here. All right, so this is within Command, guys. If you have Command, maybe you know you have your own listing presentation from somewhere else. It's up to you to go ahead and take care of that and you know. Make sure that that's in place and you have one with your name, your information and all that good stuff on there. But what this, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second there. 1 second. Yeah, so you all have your own listing presentation. And if not, Command has quite a few different versions of it. Find one that's for you. Make sure you have your name, your information pre-populated in there, and just go over it. You know, I don't typically use this one here, but you know, we're gonna go through it really quick just to see, you know, what you get out of. It's kind of bothering me a little bit here. Just make it a little bigger. So you've got, you know, you've got different things here. in your listing presentation to help you. Why is this doing this? Hold on. All right, so you got different listing presentations in here. You could go in, customize, print. You can have it in a digital format, or you can have, you know, like this one's modern too, I guess. Let's just use that. And then let's go. This line's available for print order, great. So here, you know, you could customize the initial page with your client name, get your own stuff in there, right? So you can keep that and they can look at it, stay top of mind. You could do that with with the seller guide that you send. Kind of looks very similar to this. You pretty much got like your property, your transaction timeline, your custom marketing plan, your expert homes is kind of like a table of contents of like what's in here. You could take a photo of their property or whatever else and just kind of have like a breakdown of what it is, right? Some basic info. If you're using neighborhoods and you got a client in a neighborhood set up, you do have the opportunity here to put that in, show some stats from Command or your Kelly app and what that shows and what they're getting out of that. You've got your comps that you could drop in here, right? Your needs come first. So just more value add stuff. Okay. The process, this is super cool. I like this. When you can give somebody a timeline or a checklist, hey, this is what you can expect week 1, so you expect week 2, week 3, week 4, or if you just had a checklist like this, it gives them clarity. They know what they can hold you to account. So now that they feel more in control because they got certain things that they might like be questioning or wondering when we're going to do, you know, when it's going to happen. Right. So here it says oversee appraisal, for instance, you know, sign listing agreement, receive and present offers, start showing. So you can go down the line here as you knock things out. You can have your client follow along with you so they understand where you are in the process. And that usually puts them at ease because then they know what to expect, right? Then we all have our unique value proposition in terms of what our marketing plans are. I think this is cool. You could do that too. Kind of just put in your own stuff, customize it so that works for you. Finding buyers. How do we find your buyers? Right? Sign in the yard, friends and family, the internet, real estate agent. You kind of give them a breakdown of like what some of the NAR stats are and how we're finding buyers. That just gives them a perspective, positions you as an expert. Best in class promotional assets. Again, just more value. Your media plan. Are you doing, you know, professional photos? Are you doing, you know, drone shots? Are you Matterporting the property? What do you know, what does that look like? Then you have another strategic checklist on how you go about doing that here. Staging right now is a big one. It sets you apart. Your open house strategy, real estate expertise. The proof is in the numbers. You could take some stats from your team, your market stats, your local stats, your office stats, plug something in here, show them what you guys do, credentials and awards, leading the industry. There are some things that I personally, from my standpoint, I could show stats and I like to do a little bit of that when I'm with them personally, but typically that's something I like to send with like my seller guide that gets to them ahead of time, because I don't want to go there and talk about myself. I want to make it about them, right? And doing that is extremely important. And that's pretty much it, guys. I could, so we all have our listing presentations. So it's up to you to really practice it every day, role play it every day, find somebody in your market center to go over it and actually do that in person. I think it's a lot more effective. Effective role playing really goes a long way. If you can be purposeful of doing it at least once a week, it goes a long way. The more you do it, obviously, the better. And there's no better people to do it with than other people in your market center, other agents who know essentially what's going on and know the answers and know the questions. And I would say let them give you 3 objections at least each time, and then let you win at the end. We are practicing and role playing. And as we do that, it does need to come to an end. So I know some people like to push the boundaries, but that being said, I think that goes a long way, because when you could do it with your peers, it's not going to be a problem doing it with people who don't know what you're presenting yet, right? Because we used to do scripting and role playing and live listing presentations here in our office, and it used to get really interesting. It was super fun though. But man, when you got a room full of like 15 agents and they're watching you present your listing presentation, it's a game changer. If you can get through all that, you're not going to have a problem with clients. So just throwing that out there for you guys. But I know this, we're pretty much at the ahas and the recaps here, guys. So who'd like to share a few things with some of their ahas out of today? Nobody? No ahas? Nothing?
I know this might have been a bit like obvious, but like just the open-ended questions to get them to keep talking. It's so easy to like think that I'm just because I'm asking a question that I'm doing like my job, or like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But just because I'm asking a question doesn't mean I'm asking like the right question. And if the goal is like to get them to keep talking, then I have to ask the right questions.
Yep. What else? Karina, what did you get?
For me, it was the consistency, the plan, and not let those leads sleep, put them aside, like
Yep.
keep them fresh. And the multiple connections, like, once you have an appointment, but don't just wait until the day of the appointment, but keep constantly connecting with the lead.
Absolutely. Yeah, so at the end of the day, guys, a couple things. We do need to get purposeful when we make our contacts convert, right? Making those connections efficiently so that we set ourselves up for success. All those nuances, knowing the scripts, knowing how to ask specific questions, whether they're open-ended, close-ended, assuming the close, isolation, all that stuff comes into play when it comes down to our communication. So look at those in terms of like honing in on your skills, pre-qualify the seller, extremely key, and then practicing that listing presentation day in and day out. I think that everybody has maybe for the most part, they're all similar, but we all have specific different ones. So if you're on a team, practice that as much as you can. If your team's not doing it, be that person on the team that says, hey guys, I want to initiate this. I want to hone in on my skills. We want to start doing some live listing role play. Let's do this. And if you're not on the team, find someone who's as committed to this business as you are and start doing it. The more you do your listing presentation, the more you're going to be open when you're in the position to really ask the proper questions to solidify those appointments. But if you're not confident in your listing appointment, or your listing presentation, you're not going to be that confident in wanting to close that appointment. So there's some things that we could do in skill building, right? Scripts and role play and listing presentation role plays will get you to advance in those areas so that you can, you know, go out there and just have that confidence. So with that being said, that's concluding today's Ignite. If you guys have any questions, you know, you can always reach out to me, reach out to your PC and your local market centers, and let's, you know, get you guys rocking and rolling and move from there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.